Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, deemed to be University, Chennai. For admission, contact 99400 and 99401 For further queries, visit www.satyabama.ac.in.
Hi, good evening all. Warm greetings from Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, deemed to be University. My name is R.M. Joni. I'm going to host today's webinar. Hope everyone is safe and well at home. We are elated about your overwhelming responses. Thank you all for your great support. On behalf of the organizing committee, I take the privilege in welcoming you all to the live webinar on recent trends in wind energy organized by Satyabama IEA student branch in association with the Institution of Engineers, India. I also welcome Mr. Shiva Rahul from Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy, who is going to handle this session. We welcome you, sir. It is indeed a unique pleasure and privilege for us to express our deepest gratitude and sincere thanks to our founder chancellor, Colonel Dr. JPR, sir, who always shows us his divine blessings. We take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude and honest thanks to our chancellor, ma'am, Dr. Marizina Johnson, and our president, sir, Dr. Mary Johnson, for their continuous support and high endeavors in motivating us to organize these online webinars during this COVID-19 crisis situation. And coming to today's topic, the recent trends in wind energy. The wind power generation has gained a high level of attention and acceptability compared to other renewable energy technologies. The Wind Vision report shows that wind can be a viable source of renewable electricity in all 50 states by 2050. Wind energy supports a strong domestic supply chain. Wind has the potential to support over 6 lakh jobs in manufacturing, installation, maintenance, and supporting services by the year 2050. And today we have Mr. Shiva Rahul, Associate Manager from Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy, to deliver a talk on recent trends in wind energy. We once again welcome you, sir. And to have a short note about Mr. Shiva Rahul, Mr. Shiva Rahul has 7 years of experience in mechanical product design with 5 years of working experience in L&T. He has also worked in Aker Solutions. At present, he is working as an associate manager at Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy. He is pursuing his research at Githam's University. He has completed his undergraduate and postgraduate degree in Osmania University and Satyabama University respectively. He has filed 2 patents in his area of research. We are very happy to have you here, sir. The session is yours. It's time for you to take off, sir. Over to you, sir. Mr. Shiva, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, madam, and warm welcome to all of you guys. It was a very good intro, to be really frank.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so this topic really is one of the most interesting, or at least with respect to the current trends of the mechanical engineering with respect to power generation. When it comes to power generation, why I have coined that particular word is power generation generally includes a lot of things, say it be with respect to renewables or with respect to non-renewables like conventional methods like coal and many other conventional resources. But why we come to wind is one of the very interesting story which we will discuss in the coming slides. And also, wind has a major advantages when compared to other renewable sources. For example, immediately as the word we say renewable, we get a name named as solar energy. Why? Because we have abundant source of solar. So even though when we have abundant source of solar and we have abundant investments in solar, wind always has its own important role compared to solar even. So let's walk through this PPT, and maybe at the end of the session you'll be much more happy to see how wind energy is supporting our daily lives. For example, let's take the history of the wind energy. The wind energy history is almost 5,000 years BC, like 2020 minus and 5,000 BC, where people used to sail the boats, like with the help of the winds, they used to travel with the boat sailings. And
Shiva, sir? Shiva sir? Shiva sir? Hello? 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 Shiva sir?
From the soil bed to the to your purpose applications, they made use of the wind, and which actually gives a rotatory motion. That rotatory motion is converted to an oscillating plunger motion which is a pump cylinder over shown over, pumped outside the soil. So this is a very common application, and this picture what I'm showing you here is this is one of the college projects which I have done in my UG. This is a very small picture where we made on small prototype. It's a small wind, I cannot say wind turbine sort of, but it's a small wind energy application, a wind pump application to be frank. So this, with the help of this oscillating or rotating motion, we have pumped out the water from the soil. Which we use this for rural irrigations next to our college. And then, and one more important topic over here, guys: windmill and wind turbine. Both are two different topics. These two words are generally commonly associated with many people saying, like, when they see a wind turbine, they say it as a windmill. So windmill is completely different story. Wind turbine is a completely different story. Windmill is generally it uses the help of wind, mechanical energy, and that is used only for certain machinery applications like pump or grinding stones or pumping water. Like a wind pump is a windmill. Some, for example, for some areas where they even grinding with the help of wind energy, so they are windmills. And when we can generate electricity out of that, then it becomes a wind turbine. Else it's a windmill only. Just make sure from now onwards, at least from today onwards after the session, windmill and wind turbine should be differentiated. And we have two different types of wind turbines. Generally, the classification of wind turbines can be huge. Like there are random. In general, we have two different types of wind turbines. Like the most common classification. One is a vertical axis wind turbine. Another one is a horizontal axis wind turbine. In vertical axis wind turbine, you can see this one center pillar. Na? So this is called as a tower. So the axis of the rotation here is in the tower. So the axis of rotation is perpendicular to the ground. And that is where they coin this as a vertical axis wind turbine. And when they come as a horizontal axis wind turbine, the axis of the rotation, see, this is perpendicular to this mouse where I'm pointing out. So this is parallel to the Earth's surface. So this is called as horizontal axis wind turbine. In most of our common engineering applications, we find as a major use or major advantage, because each of the both in vertical axis wind turbine we cannot get winds at just a second. See, if in this case, if this is a vertical axis wind turbine and this is a horizontal axis wind turbine, in a vertical axis wind turbine, generally as the height above the ground increases, the speed of the wind increases. So in order to get the maximum efficiency, we need the maximum wind speed. So when in order to get the maximum wind speed again, we have to get the maximum height of the tower. So if you are having the maximum height of the tower, at this top, you'll be getting very less efficiency because of this shape. The shape of this is somewhere near the center, or even it's elliptical, somewhere towards the down only. So even though the height of the tower is increased, this cannot get the maximum efficiency. Whereas in the case of a horizontal axis wind turbine, the height of the blade, the height of the axis, or the height of the rotation, or height of the speed directly depends on the height of the tower. So the more the height of the tower, the more is the efficiency of the turbine. So in most of the applications, for at least for commercial point of view, we generally go with horizontal axis wind turbines. And in very smaller applications like very less than power, like less than 100 kilowatts, or even 5 to 10, 50 kilowatts, then we go with the vertical axis wind turbine. And this vertical axis wind turbine is Sorry, I can hear some voice. Yeah, this vertical axis wind turbine is generally used at your home applications. I have a slide across coming out. This vertical axis wind turbine is just very less in cost. It almost costs around 5,000 to 4,000 rupees for one small turbine. We can even make at our home, and we can even charge a battery and a fan at for us. I'll show how it actually comes. So coming back to wind energy and history of wind energy, how does a wind turbine works? See, even though having huge number of tower and all, we completely rely upon the we completely rely upon the wind direction and the lift force of the wind. So even though if you have big tower, you have a big blade, the shape of the blade and the angle at which the attack comes and the angle at which the lift is generated, these are all very important criteria for a wind turbine to work. So see, for example, if you see this aerofoil shape, I have made a cross section over here. The wind flows in this direction. I think you have studied this Bernoulli effect, this Reynolds theorem, this laminar flow, turbulent flow. All the fluid dynamics comes into picture on this aerofoil shape. So these aerofoil shapes were designed in such a way. So obviously, before that, even when you are designing an aerofoil shape, there will be two things. When air or any fluid comes and hits a surface, there will be two things. One will be the lift, other one will be the drag. If the drag is more, the object will not fly, it will come down. If the lift is more, the object will fly. So these aerofoil shapes, these are designed in such a way, like when the air hits these aerofoil shapes in a particular angle of attack, so in that angle of attack, the result, there will be lift and a drag, and the resultant force of this lift and drag drives the turbine or drives the blades to rotate. So the lift will be more than the drag. So the resultant force will be lifting it towards up. So hence this will lift up like this in this way, and hence creates the rotation. So in this way, we convert the wind energy or the kinetic energy of the wind into the mechanical energy. And guys, whenever you think of efficiency of a wind turbine, first of all, we need to know what are the efficiencies of different renewable sources. For example, let me compare this with the wind, with the solar energy, what we have. When you see with the solar energy, the maximum commercial efficiency, when I say commercial efficiency, it will be with respect to all the operating conditions, because standard efficiency will be very different and commercial efficiency will be very different. When in case of solar, the commercial efficiency will be very rough out to 9 to 15%. 15% is also very standard optimum conditions. So 9 to 10 or 9 to 12% is the common or the general efficiency what we achieve in solar energy. But when it comes to wind, uh, the value what I'm showing over here is also a theoretical value. But the maximum wind turbine efficiency, if anyone asks you how much a maximum wind turbine efficiency it can give, then the answer is 59%. It cannot go beyond 59%, and this is also a standard value. But in general, with some of the turbines which I have worked upon, like with respect to Siemens Gamesa or with respect to Vestas wind turbines, they can oddly give around 35 to 40%. 45% efficiency turbines are termed to be much better, or the greatest design what we can ever achieve. In general, we achieve 35 to 40% of efficiency. But if anyone asks you what is the maximum wind turbine efficiency that can be achieved, that is 59%, and that is with respect to a great fellow named as Betts. He has derived a theorem for calculating the efficiency. I think if you search Betts law in internet, you will get it. It's very common theorem, but he also said like it cannot be achieved more than 59%, and all the wind turbine designs are completely based on this only. So when we come to components of wind turbine, so we will be discussing more on horizontal axis wind turbine because they are the only trend that we are following upon. I'm not denying more on vertical axis wind turbines. We do design them, but it's not for more of commercial application. So in horizontal axis wind turbine, we have three different parts: tower, nacelle, and rotor. So when you see this tower is generally is just a column on which this complete nacelle and this rotor sits. Apart from that, there is no particular purpose of this tower, but just imagine the weight of this. I think everyone are muted, right, Hemanan sir?
Yes, sir. Everyone is on mute, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
Muted.
okay, fine. No, if
You
you
can
can
proceed.
unmute, okay, fine. I do understand.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
muted.
You unmuted them, huh?
Yes, yes. You can proceed,
Yeah.
Shiva.
Okay. See, imagine the weight of this nacelle. It's not just 100 kgs, or it's not just 200 kgs, or it's not 1000 kgs. For an 3 megawatt turbine, the weight of the nacelle is almost 300 tons. Just imagine the weight of this nacelle. That's for a 3 megawatt. 3 megawatt is considered as a very 3 megawatt turbine. The weight of the nacelle is almost 300 tons. There are n number of things inside that nacelle. It seems to be very small from the bottom, but it's the main heart of the complete turbine. And you can see these blades. We have three different blades over here and a rotor. A rotor will be having the shaft from which converts the energy of the blades to the nacelle. And this tower completely completely takes this load of almost some 300 to 400 tons. It can be even more. And that complete tower weight will be transferred to the foundation. So we'll go in detail one by one on how is the tower constructed, how is the nacelle constructed. Then I think we'll be getting a much bigger idea. So if you see tower construction, I think these sort of lattice towers you can see in many of the places. For example, for people, if anyone have taken a road driving from Chennai to Bangalore, you can see these sort of turbines and number of. I think at least I have witnessed them. So this is the common tubular steel tower where this will be an oval, a trapezoidal shape of sort of, and you'll be having a steel tower, completely a steel cross sections. And this is a tubular concrete tower. This is almost since when the wind turbine conceived, like I can say when the commercial wind turbine applications conceived, then this tubular concrete wind turbine are getting used. Not now. These are now completely abandoned or we are not using them anymore. And this three-legged tower and this guy-wired pole tower, these are all recent advancements in this tower construction. Where they have in this guy-wired pole tower, it is really good. Like seeing the complete load will be on this, and these strings and all will take a little partial loads. And this lattice tower is a very common application. This can be even on our telephone towers, or this can be even on of our transformer towers, like something sort of. So these are very common, and this is the most tubular steel tower is the most commonly used application. And when you see tower construction, tower is generally made up of different segments. If you see this tower, if you see a tubular cross steel tower, you'll have different sections: lower segment, middle segment, upper segment. Why? Because this complete we cannot erect the complete turbine in a single stage. Tower cables will be too high, too huge and too high. There will be very big gigantic build comments it on this segment now. So segment by segment we go like this, and in that segment by segment we'll have different platforms, different structures inside. So this tower is also used to access the service personnel from the bottom to go to the top, up to the nacelle or up to the blades for any in case of maintenance or in case of any repair, servicing, cleaning. So this tower is the only access way for him to go, at least for onshore turbines. So in the tower there will be a ladder. At least I have a picture, I guess. Yes. So this is a picture. In this picture, you can see this is a ladder inside the tower. This ladder is mounted onto the tower ID or internal diameter, and you see a platform over here. So there will be segments, one like in n number of segments like this. So these number of segments will be mounted one on one, and this ladder will be erected inside. So service personnel comes from the bottom with the help of this ladder. He walks on, and he comes onto the top to the nacelle for any service operations. So apart from this ladder, there are also some new accessories where they are using sorry, uh, lift sort of things in some of the particular applications, but ladder is the most conventional way. And if you see, yes, so this one by one this will be erected, and after the erection of the tower, then they will erect the nacelle, and then after that they will attach this blades and the rotor. I think there are a number of videos weight and the complexity of the design itself. Just go through those videos in YouTube. You can get a and nacelle construction. So when we say the nacelle construction, so this is the tower what we are discussing over here. And there is an yaw motor, which I will explain in the coming slides. So once the wind energy is kinetic converted into the rotational energy of this blades, this rotational energy of the blades rotate by this axis. And this comes over this side, and this combined force causes the blades rotate about this axis. So this yaw axis, and this comes over this side, and this will be rotating in this direction. So imagine these motors capacity, because the nacelle weight is too huge, such that they rotate that complete nacelle about that axis, from where we get the efficiency, maximum efficiency. So this is one of the major what to say, critical mechanisms, because you have huge weight and you have to rotate about motors. Those motors also will be very high efficient and high performance motors. So there is another part that I have left on the cooler on the nacelle is a cooler top. For example, if you see the wind turbine, so there are a number of heat generating components. When I say heat generating components, because of these rotations, there will be huge amounts of friction heat generations. And because of this gearbox and this generator, you have huge amounts of heat. Although they have internal air cooling or internal water cooling or internal liquid cooling within their systems, there will be some part of heat that will be transferred or transferred outside this gearbox or the generator enclaves. So you'll be having more heat generated in this particular room, and this nacelle is completely enclosed such that there won't be any airflow or water flow from outside. So the heat generated by this will not be cooled. If the temperature of the nacelle reaches some particular limit, then the nacelle automatically stops. Else, it will be a threat to the generator and the gearbox, because these are very costly items. We cannot risk them. So there is a sensor actuated in the nacelle, such that when the temperature of the nacelle is reached some particular temperature, say some 30 to 30 degrees, 32 degrees centigrade, or some say some 38 or 40 degrees centigrade, then the nacelle stops. Then the rotation stops. So in order to cool that heat generated, there are certain amounts of pipes which are in which the liquid is circulated throughout the nacelle. That liquid is, I think, it is 50% glycol and 50% water. So the reason of being using glycol over here is in for example, in certain icy conditions or certain snow conditions, this glycol does not freeze before the water. So for example, if you have glycol and if you have only water inside that pipes used for cooling, then obviously in certain snow conditions the water freezes out and it does not take out the heat. But in order to not let the water freeze, we have added they'll be adding another liquid named as glycol, 50% glycol and 50% water, so that it won't freeze the water. Senses the blade wind direction, and based on that the blade pitches or rotates about its axis. So this gets more productive power. And nacelle yawing, in this yawing, so what will happen if the wind direction is not here, if the wind is over here at the rear end, then also the blades cannot be lifted, because you won't get any power, because the air is at the more at the back side of the nacelle. So there is one more mechanism inside the nacelle itself, where the complete nacelle itself rotates about the axis. You can see this is the yawing motor. This cross section is what I've shown, this detailed view. So you can see in this there will be yaw bearing and yaw motors, where they rotate the complete nacelle along with the blades and the rotor. So this complete set on the top is rotated about the axis over here, and they go to the direction where there is more airspeed, so that the blades can be lifted easily and more power will be generated. So these are some mechanisms to get the maximum power output. And there is one more system named as cooler top over here. So this is the cooler top. So when you see the cooler top, generally there will be a lot of heat generated by the gearbox and the generator. So if you see, even though they have an internal cooling systems, but these guys generally will have more heat generated outside. But this nacelle cover, what you have over this on the top, is completely air sealed and completely water sealed. They won't let any outside air to come inside. They won't let any outside rain to come inside. Why? Because the outside air might be corrosive. The outside water might be creating problems to the gearbox and the generator for electricity. So this is a complete airproof and a waterproof system. So if there is no if there is no air circulation inside, then obviously because of the heat generated by the gearbox and the generator, there will be obviously more temperature inside the nacelle. So this more temperature will again make the system to stop, because as the temperature increases inside, the performance of the generator and the gearbox reduces. So there is one system where we there is one sensor or a temperature sensor inside thermostat sort of, where it checks the temperature of the nacelle, the ambient temperature of the nacelle, such that if the temperature of the ambient temperature of the nacelle reaches some particular value, then this automatically stops. Then turbine rotation automatically stops. So what this will actually do, this cooler top, there are some particular pipes inside this cooler top. So if you see these particular pipes inside, so what these pipes do, they circulate a liquid. That liquid is named as 50% alcohol and 50% water. The reason behind using glycol, it's not alcohol, it's glycol. Reason behind using glycol and water is, in wind turbines can even be placed or even be mounted on a icy conditions or snow conditions or somewhere inside the snow mountains where there is more wind. So at that particular places, if you are placing water inside these tubes, the water gets freezed, and there won't be any water circulation for heat removal. So what actually will happen? So that's why they add glycol 50% and water 50% inside those pipes, and the water is circulated or the liquid is circulated throughout the nacelle, and that when this it is circulated, it absorbs the heat generated by these two drivetrain components, and from there that hot water comes over here, and this is like a heat exchanger mechanism where it's more simple radiator mechanism in our cars, or simple radiator mechanism what we see outside. So just this hot water comes on the top. With the help of these baffles or pipes, they just allow the water to flow in the pipes. So because of this air circulation on the top, this hot water inside these baffles gets cooled. So the cool water comes down from here, and from there it is again recirculated back to the nacelle. In this way, the complete heat generated by these two drivetrain components is removed. Drivetrain components actually means gearbox, generator, transformer. Here I am not showing a transformer inside the nacelle, but in Vestas wind turbines, they have transformers also inside the nacelle. So this is how it will Vestas wind turbine actually. It's a 3 megawatt turbine. So if you see, this is the cooler top. So the hot liquid inside the pipe comes on the top, and it actually the hot water is thrown in from this side, and because of this air circulation on the top, this gets cooled, and the cold water is circulated back. There are some pipes over here. You see, when the cold water is circulated over here, is collected over here, and it is recirculated back in this, and then the hot water again comes back. A simple air cooling mechanism. And then coming to some of the new trends or new technologies, we have a gearless and a geared wind turbine. Guys, gearless and geared wind turbines, this is something that has been evolved only in the last 10 years. So when we say geared wind turbine means it has a gearbox of a gear ratio 1:100, as I have discussed earlier. So if this left side, the gearbox, a geared wind turbine is similar what I have explained till now. It has a low speed shaft, a gearbox, and when it comes to high, that's all. But when it comes to a gearless wind turbine, this is somewhat that has been evolved in the last 5 to 10 years more. When you see a gearless wind turbine, there won't be a gearbox. So it is directly, the power is transmitted directly from a shaft to a gearbox itself. There won't be any gearbox to a generator itself, sorry. So the rotation of this one particular blades is transferred from the low shaft, and from the low shaft itself directly goes to the generator. So generator will have a high permanent magnets where they take the more power, because they take, here they don't have a gearbox. So the complete speed rotation of the wind is directly proportional to the amount of the power generated. So, for example, in offshore wind turbines, that means which are on more on the seashore, which are more on the sea itself. So they have more winds. So when they have more winds, because there will be more good speed rotations of the blade itself. So when they have good rotations of the low speed shaft, that is directly connected to a generator without a gearbox. So this is a new mechanism that is getting evolved into. This actually reduces a lot of things. When I see, to come to the next slide, if you see, this actually reduces a lot of complexities in the design. Why? Because I'll tell you, gearbox is not as small as you see. Gearbox is a very big system with huge complexities. Even a small repair of gearbox leads around 10 to 15 days of wind turbine halt. We cannot move a turbine without gearbox if it is installed. So for example, if there is any oil leakage, or if there is any gearbox heat issue, or if there is any one little small gear issue inside the gearbox, the complete gearbox or the complete wind turbine will be stopped. So in order to, there are some advantages of with gearbox and there are some advantages of a direct drive. So when you see, if it is with a gearbox, the hub or the main shaft is connected to the input of the gearbox. In the output of the gearbox connected to the generator. That's what I have explained. There are more rotating parts, small size of a generator. When it comes to direct drive, hub or main shaft directly connected to the generator, there won't be any gearbox. There is no rotating part at all. But there is a large size of generator. This is because of this. Um, why? Because we have a large size of generator. Because we don't have a gearbox, we are directly connecting it to the generator where we have a huge or bigger permanent magnets to get more power. So this actually increases the complexity of the generator, but completely eliminates the complexity of the gearbox. This is used for particular applications, and with gearbox used for some other particular applications. Now, coming to the future trends, the future wind turbines. What actually these guys do? The future wind turbines, like till now, what I have discussed, these are all the existing technologies, or we already proven technologies till now. But this coming slides, what we are going to discuss will be something like more and more the future projects or the future trends. So if you see, the future wind turbines will be bigger, smarter, and hybrid. When I say to bigger, it will be not only the rotor size. The bigger wind turbine includes a bigger tower. It should be too huge. And when it comes to smarter, there are very smarter solutions that are getting involved into wind turbines. And when I say hybrid, also there are many beautiful applications of hybrid wind turbines. We will discuss one by one in detail now. So before that, I just wanted to explain you what is an onshore wind turbine, what is an offshore wind turbine. Onshore is, so you remember in this way, offshore means that the wind turbine is installed on the sea. Onshore means the wind turbine is installed on the land. That's all. Just a small remembrance for making it easy. So onshore wind turbines are generally installed on the land. Offshore wind turbines are generally installed on the sea. Inside the sea, you can say. Now we say, so these many number of wind turbines are there. For example, some countries like Denmark and Netherlands, they have 100% they are generating electricity from offshore wind only, and there is more excess of energy. They are even selling it to other countries. There is no coal or hydro anything over there because they have huge winds over there. So in offshore wind turbines, when you see is the land based is onshore, and for 50 meters you can see these foundations are getting bigger and bigger. So for a greater than 1,000 meters, this is a new topic, 500 to 1,000 meters and all. Till now, at least the proven technologies or the commercial applications are only till here, this 550 to 200 meters, where they have a huge foundation at the base, and from there the tower is erected, and from there the wind turbine or the nacelle is erected. But these three, the deep water, very deep water, ultra deep water, these three will be coming in the next slides. Okay, so the offshore foundation types. When you see the offshore foundation types, for less than 50 meters, we go with these technologies. For more than 52,000 meters or 2,000 meters, we go with these technologies. So, guys, just note down one name of this. There is one company named as Principal Power, PRINCIPLE Power, Principal Power. They have patented this technology of floating. It's a very beautiful technology. If you just open their website itself, they have shown the complete 3D view. It's a real beautiful technology. I think I'll just ping it over here. What is that? Principal Power. Just go through this website. You have a website over there, so you'll get it. When you see this foundations of this left side, what I'm showing over here, these five, these are with respect to with depths less than 50 meters, that we generally call as shallow waters, and the other one what we call are the large depths. For example, if you see these large depths, we cannot really have any sort of mechanism like this. It involves large basements, buckling theorems, and a lot of things. So there a new concept has been developed named as floating wind turbine concept. Like the wind turbine floats on the water. This is a complete new trend, but it's already proven in the last 2 to 3 years. That's the reason I have given you that company's name. Just go through that website. You can find some beautiful information. And someone has asked me what is the biggest wind turbine that has been, what is the maximum power that can be generated. Ideally, when I was born, really from 1990, it's just 40.5 megawatt wind turbine is there, and that too at a height of 40 meters. This 40 meters is not the height. The wind, this maximum, this diameter is there, na? The blade maximum. This we call as a rotor diameter or the swept diameter. That diameter is what we show. And from 1995, it is 1.3 megawatt. Slowly, 2015, it became 10 megawatt. I can even tell you the company's name. It's Vestas Wind Turbines. They have made 10 megawatt with 145 meters. And after that, Vestas Wind Systems developed. I think I am a part of this project in 2015 with Vestas. And after that, in 2017, GE Wind has actually created a storm. They made 13.5 megawatt. This is an awestruck. Everyone said, "Oh my God, 13.5 is too huge." But 2020, uh, I'm lucky that I'm saying it's my own company, the company which I'm associated with. Siemens Gamesa wind turbine has actually started developing. I don't say developed. The concept is freezed. By maybe in 2022, you can say Siemens Gamesa renewable energy. Where is this 22? Sorry. Has targeted to plan 15 megawatt. They've already announced in LinkedIn and all. You can just go to the links also. Now 15 megawatt is the biggest generation. So this is not yet proved because this has to be developed. Like the design is freezed and this will definitely work. I'm very sure. This is also 13.5. Also, they have not made for commercial application. 10 megawatt there is it's a proven commercial application. I have worked on this. 10 megawatt is now currently existing commercial largest wind turbine, provided Siemens Gamesa in 2022 will be coming with 15 megawatt. And then, as I said, no, the rotor size. So imagine when you say 15 megawatt or 13.5 megawatt or 10 megawatt, you have to have bigger blades. Why? Because in order to generate that much of power, you need to have that much of wind speed. You need to have that much of rotation. So that much wind speed, that much lift, that can be only generated when you have a bigger rotor dia. And that rotor dia can only be achieved when you have a bigger towers. So in that speed, so this 10 megawatt, 13.5, 15, these are all offshore. These are all in the sea in order to get that particular power. So imagine the 10 megawatts, so that much bigger diameters of the rotors. So how much big the diameter can be? For example, with one Siemens 154 mm, 154 means this is 145, right? That means this is almost some 11 megawatt turbine, some 10 to 11 megawatt turbine. This is an Airbus A380. So the width of this is something like 79.8 meters. So the diameter or the radius, actually the radius of this wind shaft or to say you can say the length of the blade. The length of the blade is equal to one width of the aeroplane, Airbus A380. That much big the turbine will be, that much big the rotor diameter will be, and based on it, that much big the wind speed should be. And that is the reason based on this wind speed, we are now concentrating more on the offshore wind. Like we are more moving towards the offshore wind. The technologies that help us in developing towards the offshore wind. Offshore wind is again installing wind turbines on the sea. And you understand what is this? This is, I think, can anyone guess this? Okay, this is Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar, I think everyone has seen, this is in New Delhi. So the height of this tower now, what I am showing over here, this itself is 120 meters, 120. The Qutub Minar itself is 73 meters. So 120 meters high plus 158 or 154 diameter rotor plus equal to the length of the blade span is equal to width of an aeroplane. So this is what bigger turbines means. And based on this much bigger only, and imagine this is only for 10 to 11 megawatt. And now you can just imagine or visualize the sizes when it comes to 15 megawatt what Siemens is proposing. Now coming to this beautiful concept, floating wind turbines. So you can see this is the three different systems I've shown over here where it floats on a sea. So these are called strings or moors, or we call them particular names. Moore strings, that's what we call it. It's the name of a scientist. And see, this is actually balancing on the sea with the help of the buoyancy force. The same concept what they apply to submarines, that's the same concept they're applying to this. This is not yet commercially proven, but it is technically proven. That's what I have given you a company name. Just open them. They have already installed on some California seas because they have huge winds over there. So this is one of the technology that is coming into advancement in the next future days. So this is how they balance these three, and the water, these three are in equilibrium. Imagine the weight of the complete turbine will be on this. I'm also very interested to work on one of the project if I get luckily. Unfortunately, in India we haven't started these things, But in some foreign countries like USA and all, they have already started implementing these designs. Floating wind turbine. And coming to hybrid wind turbines, now imagine wind is one particular story, solar is another particular story, where hybrid and wind are two different. Like when you are mixing these two, you can get more power. So, for example, if you see this tower, in this tower, if you see this is enormous area which is actually free, but I am not saying it's completely free. Even owing to the weight of this uh, solar panels is also adding to the weight of the tower. But this is a one-time investment, and if the design can be made a little bit strong enough, then this particular area is used for it can be used for anything. So the electricity generated by this solar can be used in within itself the tower itself, because we need some particular force for this blades to start, the lift to start. We need some particular energy inside the nacelle for control cabinets, for control actuating mechanisms, for hydraulic brakes, or for any cooling devices. We need some particular energy. So that particular energy we can take out from this particular tower itself with the help of this hybrid. And there is another hybrid way where in the particular wind farm, in one wind to one wind turbine, another wind turbine, there will be some particular gap because of the diameter of the rotor. So in that particular gap, now they have started to install the solar farms, so that both parallelly can be used for power generation. And in this only, I have one patent on this, where I have added one hybrid mechanism of solar onto the wind turbine. And coming to one more interesting topic of integration of before starting this, I think Venkat has asked me one question on where we use brakes. See, what will happen is, for example, imagine if a person is coming to inspect, or person is coming to check or service the service the wind turbine. So person has come from the bottom. Where is my picture? Okay, person has come from the bottom. He has come across the complete ladder, and he has come onto the top. And from there, what he did, he has to start inspecting. But he cannot start inspecting a wind turbine while it is working. Why? Because the heat or the moving parts of the generator. If you want to service a generator, for example, he cannot service a generator, or he cannot service a gearbox while they are functioning or while they are working. He will definitely die because of some particular movement or rotation motion anywhere. It's an HSSC issue. So what he has to do, he has to stop the movement of the gearbox or stop the movement of the generator. Now how it will be stopped? He has to stop the movement of the, where is my nacelle construction? He has to stop the movement of the low speed shaft only, else he cannot stop the generator. So he has to stop the speed of the low speed shaft. Then how it will be done? He has to stop the rotation of the blades. He cannot stop the rotation of the blades because the wind will never stop. So there we need a brake which actually stops transmitting the power from these blades to the low speed shaft. So now what will happen? Now the low speed shaft will not have any power. There will be some certain locks. So once the brake is applied, they will be applying some lock on the rotor. So rotor will not rotate. So after that is called a rotor lock mechanism. That's again a hydraulic rotor lock mechanism. And from this brake, now they go to a low speed shaft will be stopped now. And then there will the generator and the gearbox will be stopped. And then he can start servicing this or repairing these issues. So this is where we use brakes inside the turbine. I think Venkat, this should be clear, right? Now coming back to subsea oil and gas. Now this is one of the more interesting topic where we are integrating. Like we are not exactly we are integrating. We are planning to integrate. Siemens and some other companies are planning to integrate. Just a second. Hello. Madam, tell me. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So guys, this offshore wind turbine, guys, I'm getting some disturbance. Just 2 minutes, we are done. So this subsea oil and gas production. See, generally there are two types of oil and gas. One is when we extract the oil from the soil. Other one is we extract the oil from the seabed. So till now, what you might have witnessed or saw is the extraction of oil and gas from the soil itself. But we have even started to extract oil and gas from the subsea, from the seabed, which is 3,000 meters deep in the sea. So these are some pictures I have shown from company which is known as Ecker Solutions, which I worked upon. So these guys, what they do, they design an equipment or design some mechanisms which extract oil and gas from 3000 meters deep, 2000 meters deep inside the sea. So what they do, they extract the oil and gas completely from here with different mechanisms, and then they move that oil and gas towards the rigs, and from there it will be to the shore. But now, in order to extract the oil and gas from the seabed, they need some particular power for controlling mechanisms or for motors or pumps or anything. So, in order to get this external power, they are now integrating with wind turbines to extract the subsea oil and gas. So, this subsea oil and gas is a complete new subject and a new domain. It's a premature subject which will be of very use in the future. And these offshore wind turbines, they will be integrated to this for more future productions. Guys, just if you have enough time, if you have 5,000 rupees budget at your home, you can make these wind turbines at your home. I made one wind turbine at my home, which is giving power to my fan. So this is how we can even make. This is one of the technology where they have made, like, when the car rotates and when the truck moves, this turbine automatically rotates, which gives power. So these are some technologies which they are rotating, which are already developed. So you can see when the truck or bus moves, there will be some airflow, and that airflow is used for rotation. This is causing electricity generation. So these are all the things that you can do at your home. I think I'm done with the presentation. Any doubts from your ends?
Okay, sir. Thank you. We're running short of time.
Yeah,
Participants, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box. We'll come back to you through the WhatsApp group with the answers. Hemanand sir, shall we conclude this session, sir?
Yes,
okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Shiva, sir. It was a wonderful presentation. We have learned much knowledge about the wind energy technology, and most of the things were new to us. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the management of Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology and Satyabama IAS student branch, we express our profound and most sincere gratitude to you, sir, for giving an excellent coverage to recent trends in wind energy technology. The session has been a quite educative and interactive, sir, for your valuable, wonderful presentation and valuable things we have shared, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Shiva, sir.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the interruption that happened in between the session. It is highly regretted, sir. Very sorry, sir. I also, sorry to the participants also. And also at this juncture, I would like to thank Dr. Hemanand, Assistant Professor from Mechanical Department of Engineering at Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, for introducing us, Mr. Shiva Rahul, for giving a wonderful session today. Thank you, Mr. Hemanand, Dr. Hemanand, sir.
Thank you.
I also thank Dr. S. Karthikeyan, the head. Right now, he's at another meeting. That is Satyabama IE Student Branch FIE head, for organizing this webinar session. Thank you once again. And last but not the least, I also thank all the participants for your enthusiastic participation, because many people got disconnected and they came back. Thank you all. Thank you all. And the feedback link is there in the chat box. The participants can submit your feedback, and the certificates will be issued based on the feedback, the mail ID which you are registering in the feedback. And the recorded session will be uploaded in the Satyabama IEI YouTube channel. Satyabama IEI YouTube channel. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shiva, sir.